Hello, Mishpacha, it's Courtney, America's Jewish mother, and I am here for a quick Friday Reads video. I'm in the middle of grading all of the things right now, so I did not finish a ton this week, nor am I currently reading a ton, so I'm just going to do a quick little Friday Reads and get back to grading all the things. So thankfully this is only going to last for about another week, because yeah, the struggle is real. So anyway, I finished 2 books this week, and I'm currently reading 2 books. And to be honest, because I'm so busy with grading right now, I've kind of hit a little bit of a reading slump. So I'm actually glad that I'm only reading 2 books right now, because I think, honestly, even 2 books seems like a lot to manage. So we'll see if I even finish either of them before the end of the month. Who knows? But anyway, so on to here's what I finished. So I finished Ezra Klein's Why We're Polarized. I've actually already left a full review video of this on my channel. I will link to that down below if you are interested. I ended up giving this book 4.5 stars. I thought it was an excellent, well-researched, engagingly written book, and I feel like I learned a lot from it, and it was very insightful on the subject of both contemporary American politics and human psychology, so I would highly recommend it. And yeah, again, I will leave my full review linked down in the box below if you want to check that out. So that was the first book I finished this week. And the second book I finished this week was Polarized by Toni Morrison. I read this for Robert at Barterhord's Backlist Book Club. This was our November selection. I ended up giving Polarized 3 stars. I think I gave it 3 stars. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I gave it 3 stars. I was more leaning towards 2.5 stars, but then there was some really lovely writing in the last chapter that kind of pushed me over into the 3 stars category. So anyway, so Paradise is really more about a town than it is about specific characters in that town, even though we do see and follow specific characters. So as the book opens, these citizens from the all-black town of Ruby, Oklahoma have come to the convent, as it is called, which is, it's almost like a shelter for battered women in a way, but it's not exclusively battered women who wind up there, but usually, you know, women who have been kind of beaten down by life in one way or another, who wind up at the convent. So it's all women who live there. So these citizens from the town of Ruby come to the convent and murder all of the women there. And that is the opening of the book. And so then from there, we kind of backtrack and follow various characters, both women who live in the convent or visit the convent, and we find out what their backstory is, and then sometimes we also get the story of someone who lives in the town of Ruby, and we follow them. So because this is Toni Morrison, this was an extremely well-written and beautiful book. I think in a lot of ways, Morrison portrays the town of Ruby and its settling somewhat like the Israelites in the Bible settling the Promised Land. And really the sort of driving question of this book, I think, is, you know, if you build a paradise, are you just going to spend the rest of your life defending it from the influence of outside forces? And Morrison seems to think that that the answer is yes, you will spend the rest of your life just trying to defend it from outside forces. And actually there was a line that I feel like pretty well encapsulates the book for me. This is on 306 in my edition, so this is toward the end. How exquisitely human was the wish for permanent happiness, and how thin human imagination became trying to achieve it. Soon Ruby will be like any other country town, the young thinking of elsewhere, the old full of regret. And it goes on. But I feel like that pretty much sums up kind of the main driving idea here. And yeah, I did find this book somewhat dense because there are a lot of biblical allusions, and Morrison kind of sets up the book as if it was like, you know, a Bible story or a book of the Bible, right, where you're not just following one character from start to finish, you follow a whole bunch of different characters, and you know, you hear about various things and the interrelations between people and things like that. So it is biblical in its way. But yeah, because of that, I found it sort of hard to connect to any of the characters because we don't really follow anyone from start to finish, because as I said, the focus is really more on the town of Ruby and the convent than it is on any specific person themselves. Although I did find that Consolata's chapter, which is in the last third or so of the book, I liked that one the best because I felt like that chapter we actually kind of got into Consolata's head, and so I felt closer to her than I felt to the other characters in the book. So anyway, I definitely would not start with this as your first Morrison novel, but you know, it's fine. You know, if you have a long storied career as a novelist, not every single book you write is going to be great, and to me, Paradise is not one of Toni Morrison's better books, but I think it is a book that will really appeal to some people, especially if you are someone who is kind of driven and drawn to ideas or themes in a book more than you are, like me, a sort of character-driven reader. I also don't know that it would appeal to someone who's particularly plot-driven, because there's not really a sort of cohesive plot that runs through it either, because there are just all these different threads. It might also appeal to you if you like things that are a little bit more experimental. And I'm not saying the book is written in a way that's particularly experimental in terms of formalism, but it's experimental in terms of this is not how you would normally write like a story that starts here and ends here with these specific characters who go on this adventure or take this journey or, you know, meet this person and everything changes, or, you know, anything like that. So it is sort of experimental in that sense. So yeah, I ended up giving this 3 stars. So those are the books that I finished this week. So in terms of what I'm currently reading Anton Chekhov's The Lady with the Little Dog and Other Stories. This is part of my not yet read November reading, and I am, I think I've read about 7 stories in here, and I'm not quite halfway through the collection, and I'm enjoying this so far. Again, with most short story collections, not every story is going to be a winner, and not every story you're going to connect to as well as the other ones, but I have enjoyed these for the most part so far. There are and I will say this, in this Penguin edition, it has notes in the back that tells you a little bit about the publication history of the stories, as well as some notes on, you know, references to people, places, songs, lines from Russian literature, etc., etc., and I'm finding those quite helpful and and enjoyable too. I like that they give the stories some context. So still enjoying this. And I also have started reading this last week, Henry Louis Gates' Stony the Road, Reconstruction, White Supremacy, and the Rise of Jim Crow. This is both for not yet read November and for nonfiction November. And I am only a little over 50 pages into this so far, so I don't really know that I've read enough to have anything substantive to tell you about it, nor have I really formulated a judgment about it yet. But it is interesting. In the first chapter that I read, Gates discusses how even during the antebellum period with people who were abolitionists, people who were abolitionists were not always pro-slave. So that is, they were in favor of abolishing slavery, but they were not necessarily supportive of African Americans or desirous of them having equal rights with white citizens. And that's not something you really hear talked about a lot, so I have found that interesting. So I'm curious to see where else Gates goes in this book with his discussion of Reconstruction. So that is everything that I either finished this week or am currently reading. So yeah, if you have thoughts about any of these books, please feel free to let me know that down in the comments below. I would also love to hear what you have been reading and enjoying this week. I hope everyone had a happy and safe Thanksgiving, if you celebrate Thanksgiving. And yeah, I hope everyone is staying healthy and well. I hope you're doing good reading whatever you're reading. And until next time, would it kill you to call you mother?